Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Man, I've been getting some awesome questions from the viewers out there. I've got a list right now. I'm up to 781 ideas. That's a lot of different topics to talk about. Some of them are really very specific. Some of them are very broad. But I love the ideas that I get from you guys. So if you have ideas, throw them in that comment section. I'll put it on the list. I don't know when I'll get to it. But I'm trying to get to as many as I can. And I had one that came in probably a week ago that was pretty entertaining. It was like, can you just give me your favorite bait under certain circumstances? You know, if I'm fishing wood, if I'm fishing grass, if I'm fishing whatever, what would be my go-to bait? And it was like, I'm like, oh, that'll be an easy video to do. Well, I'll tell you what, I sat down and like wrote out a bunch of different simple conditions. So I got wood, rock, you know, emergent grass, submergent grass, like just wrote out a bunch of different things. And I'm like, okay. And when I sit down and think about it, I'm like, okay, well, for emergent grass, I've got cattails. I would like this bait. I like this bait for pads. And it was not as easy as I thought it would to break it down. I've actually spent way too much time on this video. But it's entertaining to me. I thought this would be a good one to do. So I'm going to give you like my favorite go-to baits under, you know, the majority of circumstances. If you run into this bait should work. So I'm going to do that. Before I get into it, I do want to remind you guys that if you're looking for a lake breakdown of your favorite lake or a lake that you need a little bit of help on, go to the description, click the link to fishthemoment.com lake descriptions. Myself, Johnny Schultz, Randy Blockett, we've all been doing different lake breakdowns. I kind of handle smallmouth lakes throughout the country as well as lakes in the northern part of the country, whether that's Northern California or Northeast or Upper Midwest, wherever. So I've got a bunch of lakes done. I think I've done like 60 of them in the last 3 months probably. So if that's something you're looking for, head over to that. We give out a bunch of waypoints, break the lake down based on season, what you should be looking for. I think it's really good help. It's basically me doing my tournament pre-practice review work that I do on the computer, putting it into written form for you guys out there. So it should be really pretty helpful. Also, if you don't have one, or if there isn't one for a lake you want, you can request a personal lake breakdown where if you've got a little small lake in your area, we'll break that lake down for you too. Also, guys, just as a reminder, I am now doing an affiliate program with Tackle Warehouse. The link is in the description. If you want to support the channel, take that link, put it in your browser, bookmark it, so that every time you go pull up your bookmarks, you will and put an order in at Tackle Warehouse, you'll be supporting the channel. Really great way to support the channel. It allows me to continue to keep making content for you guys out there. So hopefully this is helpful because we're really just trying to help everyone catch a few more fish and potentially save a few dollars by not spending money on baits that you don't necessarily need. So let's get into today's topic. The question was, what are your favorite baits under certain conditions and certain types of cover that you're fishing? So we're going to start this off with rock. So rock could be riprap, it could be deep rock, it could be big boulders, really any form of rock. And these baits, all these baits I chose should work under all of the conditions that fall within that. There may be certain conditions, certain types of rock where you find one bait works better, but all of these baits, I tell you, will work on whatever type of cover it is that we're talking about. The first is rock. One of my absolute favorites, and I haven't talked about it much on the channel, but we're going to today, is the Yamamoto Hula Grub. The double tail. I like the 5-inch better, which is basically the same size as the 4-inch, only has thicker tails. It's basically a finesse football jig. I like to put it on a football, you know, a smaller, lighter wire football head jig. This is a weedless one by Junction City, but there's a lot that you can get out there. Pretty much most companies. This is just one I grabbed off the board for you quick. The key is a lighter wire, sharp hook, football head style bait. You match that up with a hula grub on any natural color, whether it's your watermelons, green pumpkins, browns, cinnamons. Yamamoto's got like 6,000 different colors to choose from. This is one of my favorites. This is watermelon with blue flake in it. It works pretty much everywhere you go, but it is one of my absolute favorites for fishing rock, whether that's a riprap road or channel swing bank with rock on it, or a smallmouth flat in 8 to 10 feet of water with rock transition to sand. A hula grub will work everywhere you go and catch a pile of fish. It is one of the most underrated baits, in my opinion, that we have right now. When it hit the scene, which is probably like 25 years ago at this point, it was kind of like a major hidden little secret bait that people threw. And then it really took off. And then now with the introduction of lots of other baits, it seems like it's kind of been put on the back burner. Don't sleep on the hula grub if you're fishing around rock. Next up, suspended fish. I had to pick two baits for this because I've got suspended fish that are in less than 10 feet of water, or the top 10 feet of water of the water column. You know, they could be over 100 feet, but if they're 10 feet down or less, then I like to go with a jerk bait. The Stunna is very much one of my favorites at this point. It's the bait that I grab in tournament situations. I've got a ton of confidence now in this. I was catching a bunch of fish in practice at Lake Rayburn, Sam Rayburn on it. I didn't really end up fishing that area of the lake in the tournament, so I didn't really get to throw it, but I do know of a lot of big fish at Rayburn that were caught on a Stunna. So if the fish are suspended in 10 feet of water or less, it's really hard to beat a jerkbait. If they're deeper, I like to go with a swim bait then, with a heavier Matt Steffen Dirty Jigs guppy head. This is the 3/8 ounce size, and pair it up with like a 3.8 swim bait. And I like the Kitech if I've got warmer water conditions, and if I've got colder water conditions where I have less active fish. The tighter wobbling tail on the Power Swimmer is dynamite, but either of those baits for deeper suspended fish on a guppy head is a go-to for me. Okay, moving on. If I'm fishing wood, so laydowns, stumps, any sort of wood, where I can only have one bait, which is not fair, but if I only have one bait, my bait of choice is the Berkley Max Scent Creature Hog. Absolutely love this guy. It's a beaver style bait, works everywhere, works in dirty water, clear water. You can fish it in super shallow, super deep wood. It's a killer. It's become one of my absolute go-tos when it comes to flipping. It was a hard one between that and the Pit Boss, but I went with the Creature Hog because lately I just have a little bit more confidence in it. It seems to be working great. Pair it up with a Fusion 19 wide gap and you're good to go. Okay, moving on to grass. If I'm fishing submergent grass, so grass below the surface, it's a hard one. But if I'm picking one bait that works no matter what type of submerged grass it is, I'm going with a Zoom Speedworm. It is an absolute killer. Anytime you're fishing grass, regardless of what part of the country if you're fishing up north, down south, if you've got milfoil, eelgrass, coontail, hydrilla, it doesn't really matter. It comes through it great. It's just one of those things. It's a very versatile bait anytime you're fishing around grass. You can swim it through the grass, you can swim it on outside edge, you can drop it into holes. It's a great grass bait. Next up, if I'm fishing emergent grass, so that's when we start talking about your bulrush or buggy whips, whatever you call it, coontail, or not cattails, not coontail. If you're thinking about like lily pads, to me, I consider as an emergent grass. Hay grass, that type of thing. Then I'm gonna go with my swim jig, a Dirty Jig swim jig, paired up with a Berkley The Deal. On the back is The Deal. So that's just the Dirty Jig swim jig. This is the 4.5 inch, the deal, and just green pumpkin. I'll throw it in the 3.5 as well. Just kind of depends where I'm at. If I'm down fishing like a lake like Gunnersville that's got bigger fish, then I'll be throwing the 4.5. If I'm fishing a place maybe that's more spotted bass, I'll probably downsize to the 3.5 Berkeley the deal. But it's hard to beat a swim jig. It comes through emergent grass amazingly well, whether that's pads or buggy whips or tules. I mean, whatever, hay grass, it comes through that stuff really, really well. It allows you to generate a lot of strikes. And no matter what the emergent grass is that you're fishing, a Dirty Jig swim jig with a Berkeley the deal on the back will get you there. Next up, topwater. All right, so topwater could be its own show where we talk about my favorite baits within each category of topwater. But for the sake of this, we're going to talk about if I had one topwater bait, what would it be? Regardless of season, regardless of the cover I'm fishing, one bait, that's all I got to pick. I'm going with the Berkeley Chopo, guys. This bait is so versatile, it's ridiculous. You can use it kind of like a popper. You can use it like a buzz bait. You can, just cover all kinds of water. You can fish around grass. You can fish around wood. It's a very versatile topwater bait that gets a ton of bites. It's one of my absolute favorite topwaters. And if you made me choose one right now, I'd probably have this tied on if I could only have one versus anything else. So the Berkeley Chopo is a must-have. Great topwater bait. That's all I can say. Next up, I've got, so if I'm fishing deep bottom related stuff, so whether that's ledge fishing or, fishing deep points, whatever it is, deep water, let's say 20 feet or more, that's when I'm going with a football jig. This is the Dirty Jigs football jig. I've got that paired up with a Berkeley Boss Grub on the bottom. Great combination. The thing with a football jig is it allows you to fish super deep very, very efficiently. You can cover a lot of water and find where the fish are holding, and the fish will eat this thing really well. I will state the other benefit to throwing, say, a football jig over other bottom baits is it really provides you with very good feel of the bottom. So if you want to find the shell bed, find the rock pile, find that one piece of wood that's laying down there, the football jig transmit that bottom feel to the rod really well. So it gives you a really good idea as to where you're at. For me, I use it as a search bait to find the sweet spot, whether that's the actual bottom I'm feeling like a shell bed, or to find the fish. And then once the fish stop biting this, I can slow down and throw a drop shot or, a big shaky head or something along those lines. But to me, a football jig is really hard to beat in terms of covering water. If you gave me one bait to fish deep, I'm going with football jig. It also catches big fish. The big fish like it. So the last topic, or the last general topic that I chose for this was smallmouth. If I could have one bait for smallmouth, what would it be? And that's the Ned Rig. And right now, I've got two that I use. The Little General, the Maxent Little General, which I had great success with in the fall of last year. So it's definitely in my top two. The other one is the Z-Man TRD, is excellent as well. I'm expecting this to fully take over for all my Ned rigs just because I didn't have enough time. I didn't have a full year. I know it kills them in the fall. I want to make sure it catches them all year long before I say I'm committing 100% to the Little General. But if you've got one bait for smallmouth year-round, regardless of cover, you need to have your Ned rig. It's a dynamite bait. Covers wherever the smallmouth are at. You can get it there. You can fish it. So guys, that's just a handful. We could pick literally 50 more different topics for this, and maybe we'll do it. If you enjoyed the video and you want me to come up with other certain techniques or different types of cover to fish, hell, throw it in there. Let me know what bait you want me to talk about with respect to a certain technique or cover. We'll do another one of these videos if you enjoyed it. So hit the like button, that tells me you did, and stay tuned for tomorrow's video. Thanks for watching.